Welcome, everybody. Very glad to see you. I want to try to start our meetings on time as often as we possibly can. I know that sometimes there can be weather issues, but I want to also be respectful of your time and get you out of here on time because you've made quite the commitment to the school district, and I appreciate that. We appreciate that. So my name is Paula Barbaro. My official title in GCISD is Chief Operations Officer. So I get to work with people who have an indirect hand in supporting what it is that our campus leaders and teachers and other staff members do in our buildings every day and on the fields and so forth. And so that is the role that I have. I'm going to make a couple of just very quick introductions so that you have a familiarity with a couple of the faces. So Dr. Schnauz is our interim superintendent. He's the very tall guy in the room when he stands up. I also want to point out Ms. Calvin Powell, who's sitting right here on the corner. She is the official bond coordinator for GCISD, and she does a tremendous job keeping me out of trouble. So I very much appreciate everything that Calvin has to do, and she's a whiz with numbers and spreadsheets. In addition to that, we have some friends with us from our architectural firm, Huckabee and Associates. I think they're kind of sitting in the back. First off, the director of the Fort Worth office, Paul Thompson back there. And then I've got, where'd David go? David Gustav, who's the principal and the lead architect for our account. And Ron, I knew that was going to happen. Ron Redpracha. It's a Ron with a rod, Pracha. Ron Redpracha. So it's a little bit of a tongue twister. So we're very glad to have Ron here. You're going to hear from them a little more as we go into the weeks and months ahead. He is a planner with Huckabee. My administrative assistant, Leslie Krawetsky, there's another tongue twister. I've just had more years to practice that one. So if you need to get in touch with me, Leslie's a good way to get in touch with me. And there are many others in the room that hopefully you will get to know here fairly soon. So a couple of just logistical things so that you're aware. If you don't have your agenda, there's some extra agendas at the table so that you can follow along. Our doors for getting into these meetings will be unlocked 15 minutes before our meeting time, so 5:45, and 15 minutes after they will lock, so it's 6:15. In an email that you'll get in a couple of days, if you are running late and are going to arrive after 6:15, we'll give you a text message or a phone number to be able to send a message to let us know so we can have somebody waiting for you at either door. That's these doors out front, plus the doors to get into the conference room and this back door over here, because there is a parking lot on this side of the building as well. So if you'll keep that in mind, if you need a restroom break, feel free to exit right out this side. Gentlemen, it's immediately to your right and on the left of that hallway, and ladies, it's right across the hallway. All right, so that's important. Please take care of yourself as you need to. We have drinks and snacks for everyone here. I'm sorry that we can't provide dinner. I know it's dinner time, but hopefully you're able to kind of take care of that a little bit either before or after our meetings. All right. There are going to be times as we go through this process over the next few months where you've got some questions. Now, you're going to have questions during your table discussions with each other. I'm not talking about that. But a very specific question perhaps about a proposed project or something that we're discussing from a logistics standpoint, something you don't understand about the process in the district. We're going to have what my educator friends like to call a parking lot. I'll tell you, the first time I heard this, I thought, what in the world are they talking about? But they like to either have a board or something on a wall where if there's a question that can't be answered or addressed in the moment, we have the opportunity to put the questions there for us to review later and work on bringing answers to you. So sometimes I'll either come back and report answers. Most of the time we'll probably provide you the answers in writing. That's so that everybody has the benefit of having heard or seen what the question was and what the response or information was. So that's for the more complex or detailed stuff that might be needed or asked as we go through this process. So in the coming weeks, we'll have a parking lot, a more official one. You'll also have my email, which you should already have, but you'll get it again, and you're going to get Calva's email. So if you have a question that you think of after you've been here, that too is a way to submit your questions, and we'll add them to anything that we get in the parking lot. So you can also do that tonight as well. All right, We have a web page that is dedicated to this committee, the Facilities Long Range Planning Committee. And I have a sample at your table of what that page looks like on the GCISD website. That will be the repository of information, so agendas, the schedule, any of the presentations that are given in this room, the information and materials and resources will be posted there. You can see that Caitlin over there is videoing our meeting. That too will be available for people so they can stay up to date, be informed, see what's going on, hear what's being said, that kind of thing as we go through this process. It's also a way for you, if for whatever reason you just can't attend a meeting, to have the ability to see what was presented or talked about and maybe catch up. I don't advise doing that too often. I will tell you that this reminds me of math when I was in school. It builds, every meeting builds on the one from before. The information tends to build, and once you break up into subcommittees to really begin discussing needs and wants of the district and so forth, that is something that we really can't capture in a video because you're going to be in separated groups and there's no way for us to provide kind of meeting summary notes. But in addition to that, my communications friends, Rosemary right here, are also going to help us. She's going to create a summary of notes. These are not meeting minutes, but notes of the meeting, which will also provide a good just recap for everybody to be able to stay on board with everything that happens during the meetings. All right. I'm going to put a thought in your head about something that you're going to have to think about and agree on as a committee here in the near future. And that's around the word consensus. There are 50 people that are voting members of this committee. That's a lot of thoughts and opinions about whatever it is we get into. And so to be efficient and effective with that as a group, you're going to have to agree on what consensus means. Is that everybody's unanimous on something? Is it 90%, 85%, 70, 75? I don't know. And I'm not going to be the person that decides that. As a committee, you're going to decide that. And as subcommittees later, you'll decide perhaps what that is for your subcommittee, although it'll be uniform for every subcommittee, but you might have a lower threshold or a higher, higher threshold. So the last time I did this, subcommittees had a higher threshold. They wanted to have 85% of the people on the group in agreement, but the whole group, it was okay if we were just an 80%, and then that was good enough for everybody to be willing to support and be a part of, okay? So we're not going to decide that tonight, but that's something that you want to think about as we begin to go through this process, because as a committee, we're going to have to work on deciding what consensus means to you and how you set that. You are the first of two committees. We've never done it this way at GCISD. I love the fact that we will do something different each time we try to embark on this journey. You're the Long Range Facilities Planning Committee. There's another committee that will kick off in August that for now is called the Bond Advisory Committee. What does that mean? The district anyway and its leadership have decided that there's probably a need to consider some sort of a bond in the near future. The target date right now is May of 2024. That's not hard and fast, but you're going to hear about some things that will help you to understand what that is. This is no different than your home budget when you're planning out long range. At what point in time am I going to have to consider replacing the air conditioning unit in my home? And it's starting to make plans and budgeting towards that. Well, you're creating kind of the decade-long plan for the district. You're the Long Range Planning Committee. You're not going to have to wrestle as much with dollars. You are going to look at needs, the educational process in the district. What should that look like, sound like, feel like? What do we want for our students? What do we want for our staff? So you're going to be able to be a little bit more grandiose in terms of your thoughts and thinking, and really trying to be creative in what you begin to look at and consider for the district. There's some basic needs, right, that everybody has to have. If your fence blows over because it's 15 years old and pickets have rotted, and your homeowners association requires that you have a fence, you're going to be replacing your fence. Well, how do we have a contingency for that equates to whatever that is for the school district? And so you're going to be looking at all of that, and that is your committee's role, is that of looking out a decade, because we don't know what a bond program will be. It could be a 5-year program, it could be a 2-year program, it could be a 6-year program. It depends on what it is when it comes to that time, what it needs to be. And there are a lot of other factors and implications, right? What's happening in the economy, what are the interest rates doing? All of those things factor into what you actually do with a bond. So that is not a hard and fast decision about how long or how much or what. But what you're creating is that master plan for the district to look at and be able to plan towards over the course of the next decade. Doesn't mean it won't get tweaked, but certainly we have to have a long-range plan, especially when it comes to facilities, some of the infrastructure and the equipment that we make use of. It's a master planning tool, if you will. Not only from a bond aspect, because that's a major way that we budget, but just even for the district's operating budget. And that's why you're going to hear conversation about 2 committees. Some of you will be asked to go to the committee that kicks off in August and talk about your work and your experience and the things that you learned and the decisions that you reached as a committee and as subcommittees, and share that with that committee to kind of help them be able to get through their part of the process a little bit sooner. When we tried to do this with one committee, and they were dedicated for an entire year, frankly, it just wore people out. It was too long. And this way, what I like is that there's 50 on this committee, and there's going to be about 50 on the next committee. We're going to get the thoughts and the input of the community from 100 different people. This committee, just like the next, is made up of parents, teachers, community members, other staff members in the district. We've got campus leaders. We have some administrative level leaders that are actual voting members of this committee. You'll get to know who they are a little bit later. Because there are 14 other people in this room whose sole purpose is to be here to be a resource and provide information and answer questions and research things for you and your subcommittee. They don't have a voting say. I'm one of them. I don't ever vote, raise my hand. All right, and so we have some of those experts, at least in terms of their role in GCISD, they're here in support for you. And that is their primary role. So a little bit later, we'll get a chance to meet those liaisons. And they're going to be assigned to your subcommittees based on their areas of expertise in the district. There are a couple of people that really need to double over into more than one subcommittee, and we'll just work through the logistics of that. That's what you see at your table. You have an interest in where we're headed with the subcommittees. And there's a sheet that looks like this. Right now we think that the most logical breakdown is along those lines into 4 subcommittees. I reserve the right always to change my mind 5 minutes before we walk into the next meeting. Okay? It's an evolving process. You may suggest something differently once we start getting into it, and that's okay. One of the things I always have to remind myself about this is that it's messy. And I don't really like messy. But I've learned to live with it and adapt to it because it always works itself out in the end, and that's what I always have to be reminded of. And so this is where we begin, and you can see some of the liaisons that have been assigned to those subcommittees. And we'll learn a little bit more about that. But you might be thinking about where your interests are. Do you have a particular area of expertise or just interest in which you want to participate? Because you'll have an opportunity to tell me or tell us which committee you would like, which subcommittee you would like to be a part of. You probably have to rank, your first and second preference on that, and we'll try to accommodate as many people as we can. We do have a few people that are missing tonight. They had some unavoidable conflicts, and so we'll try to catch them up a little bit later. As I said, it's probably a little bit easier to do that from tonight's meeting than it will as we really get into the process and the discussions. All right. I think that I've covered just about everything that I had up to this point. Do I have any questions about this committee, its purpose, where we're going? I hope you've noticed that not all of the meetings are on Thursdays. Some of them are on Tuesdays. Some of them are 1 week back to another week. Sometimes there's a break. And that was truly a function of when this room was available. We don't have another room that accommodates this type of group that has the technology in place to be able to facilitate a meeting like this. Hint, hint. Shameless. I really don't want to have too many of these rooms, but that could be a need, and that's certainly something that I know is on the list for consideration among many, many things, and I haven't even seen them all just as of yet. We'll really get into the nitty-gritty of the conditions assessments that have been done, as well as the requests that have come in from across the district, starting towards the end of March. Before then, you're going to hear from several of our leaders in GCISD talking about their respective areas, the processes in GCISD when it comes to educating our students, and what are the needs are, what they see coming down in the future, the horizon. You're going to also get some information from our architects about the Texas Education Agency requirements for spaces, or at least recommendations for spaces. There are some things that are just flat compliance issues that we've got to address with our facilities. And so you'll be taking a look at that. The largest sector of what you're going to see are the assessments that the Huckabee team have helped to perform with a group of consultants, which is to evaluate each and every one of our facilities, where they are today, in the things that they observed. And you're going to be able to see pictures, you're going to have descriptions, you're going to understand as best you can without making a tour to that facility, where things stand currently. And then, as I said, you're going to hear from some of the leaders in the district about where things are headed, what we believe is necessary in the future for students and staff as well. Very good. Second opportunity to ask me any questions real quick. And if not, you can jot it on a sticky note and put it in the parking lot. That's fine too. All right, well, with that, I'm going to introduce Ron again, not call you Rod this time, and ask you to come up and help the committee with a little exercise here at the outset.
Thank you so much, Paula. I appreciate everyone's time here tonight. My name is Ron Rapracha again. I'm with Huckabee Architects, and my team and I are here to help you guys, work with you guys and everybody through this long-range planning process. So we so appreciate that you've hopefully volunteered and not just been voluntold, like to be here to help with the process. But now that you know a little bit about me, I think it'd be great if y'all got to know a little bit about each other. So if you don't mind, sort of going through a little, sort of getting to know you activity. Let's get started. I'm not going to make you stand because part of the process is going to stand, but I think if you just raise your hand, I think that'd be pretty good. I guess let's start with how many people have lived in Grapevine Collegeville from 0 to 3 years? Well, quite a few. Yeah, yeah. I mean, trust me. It's for how about 4 to 9 years? All right, that's a lot of people. 10 to 15 years. Wow. More than 15 years. All right. How about their entire lives? All right, we got some lifers in the room. Shout out to the lifers. All right, now how many of y'all have kids in elementary schools with Grapevine Collegeville ISD? All right. Middle school? How about high school? All right. Well, we're going to be talking about all those facilities in the next coming weeks and months, so I'm glad that we got a pretty good distribution of folks that have a stake in these facilities. How about kids in multiple school levels, like kids in elementary school and middle school and high school? All right. And how many of y'all have attended school at Grapevine Collegeville and or graduated? All right, awesome. We got some alumni in the house. Well, definitely we appreciate y'all being here. I guess, do we have any business leaders or church leaders or leaders of recreational groups present? All right. Have any of y'all been part of a long-range planning committee, or is this your first time? I see one gentleman back there. All right, you may be part of our residential expert team right there. How about bond planning team? I mean, besides Cal, you can't raise your hand. Thank you so much. Now, I want you guys to take a few minutes to sort of talk to a neighbor in your subcommittee that you may not have met before, and just sort of get to know each other. I mean, you guys might know each other already, but maybe you don't. Maybe you guys are all new to the process. So let's take a couple minutes and sort of introduce yourselves to your neighbor or somebody at the adjacent table, and we'll give you a couple minutes to do that.
Richard Davidson, 8th grade math teacher at Heritage. All right. I had a committee of so I've been here, this is my 4th year here. I did 17 in Fort Worth ISD at Stockton. So that was my 5th year there. So year 22 for me. So I do, yeah. So I've got a 3rd grader right here at CMS or Colleyville Elementary. Got an 8th grader at Cross Timbers, and then a senior getting ready to graduate from Grapevine. Okay. Oh, that's awesome. They probably all know each other. So it's wild. My daughter.
All right, guys,
every single I teach 99 of them are best friends with my daughter. Yeah. She goes across Timbers, same with Grapevine. It's like, oh my goodness. She's super athletic, so she's like plugged in everywhere. So she does basketball, volleyball, and then track and field. So she was teed up to win the region champions last year in the 100, 200, 400, and she ripped her quadricep in the 100 final right before the finish line. So that was it. This year, we'll see what happens. It took her about 8 months, so we're ready to go. Hopefully she stretches, learns her sweatpants during these cold meets. The first meet, it was like 30 degrees and the wind was blowing 85 mile an hour, and she was in shorts. I'm like, sweetie, you don't run for an hour and a half? Good. Whole muscle, wow. So it's pretty exciting. I mean, my son's worked here at Palio, Jersey. Coach baseball, pretty small association, vice president of the board, soccer, trying to sell Yeah, it goes by fast. Oh, that's great. That'd be awesome. Oh, for sure. Oh, yeah. Airplane rides. Oh, yeah. And no time off. I mean, very little. And they go back to what, like June, and go all the way to football season, and still go on, right? I mean, you guys have competitions in the spring semester. Man.
Wrap up this part of the show, but I will be asking for volunteers from each table to sort of find out what they found out about their neighborhood. So y'all just sort of wrap up and head back to your tables. That'd be fantastic. All right. this table right here, I guess, can I have a volunteer right there? Thanks, sir.
I'm surrounded by a bunch of people who are in the weeds with what goes on within the district, teachers, as well as a PT and a law specialist. So I've got some experts here, and then I'm a local parent.
Awesome, thank you so much. Okay, volunteer from this table, please.
I guess I'll go. So we've got 2 principals, emerging management, and then just 2 presidents of kids in elementary school.
Had y'all met each other before?
Not, I think the principals have known each other.
I hope so, Oh, that's awesome. How about you guys? Can I have a volunteer from this table, please?
I'll go because I'm one of the ones who doesn't work for the district. These nice folks all know each other really well, and we've got some Aggie-ness in common. A little bit. She's got
And we have
two
some
Aggies.
future ponies that are coming my way.
Oh,
We've got
wow.
twins that are heading to GCISD next year. so.
Awesome. Well, like that could be a challenge, but yeah, I'm rooting for you.
He's talking to you.
How about you all over there at the table behind? No, with you guys, right there. Red shirt.
Yeah, oh, me. So we got the head of technology, we got, so it's us 3 here, and then the principal at Dove Elementary, and I teach middle school mathematics, and kids in the district, all of us, and happy to be here, we think.
Well, we're gonna find out, I promise you. How about you all over here, please? Volunteer. No, this. Right over here.
In the middle. It's great. Met the interim superintendent or deputy superintendent, technology, and the principal, I believe, if I remember correctly. And there's a shared common connection, both from Ohio originally, so Columbus, and I grew up in Cleveland, Cincinnati, and so.
Yeah, small world.
It is a small world when we start to really break it down. And we got children in the district, and we're excited to serve.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right, y'all's turn right now.
Yeah, I'll go. Sorry, not to set a precedent, but I feel more comfortable whenever I stand up and speak.
You do you, man.
Okay, thank you. Right back at you. So I had the good fortune of sitting at a table with 4 long tenured district employees. I think it's a good cross section all the way from facilities to nutritional services. And so they've been here with the district anywhere from 8 to 23 years.
Oh, wow. Fantastic. Thank you so much.
That's right. I have 2 boys at Bransford, shout out, right?
All right, y'all are up. You guys pick volunteer or voluntold? I'll pick somebody.
I'll do it. We've got a pre-K teacher at Colleyville Elementary School, a band director at CTMS, a sophomore at Colleyville Heritage High School, a mom with kids in Grapevine High School, plays in the band,
Yep.
and also kids in middle school and high school. Elementary. Okay.
Soon though, soon. Thank you so much, sir. All right, y'all are up to bat. Who's volunteering?
So we have a group of administrative, we have principals and some other GCISD staffers. There's 3 of us that are not. We have commercial real estate, stay-at-home mom, PTA president.
Oh, wow.
And
Yay.
I have a business, e-commerce business.
Nice. Thank you so much. All right, last but finest, right? You want to volunteer or you got?
Sure.
Okay, great.
I'll go, Jeff. Go ahead. All right, so we got, let's see, Zach's a business owner, I'm a business owner. We've got a district employee network and works for the Grapevine Chamber of Commerce. Amy's head of nursing for the district. We've got kids from kindergarten all the way through grown.
Oh, wow.
And I think it's us.
Awesome. Hey, you got the expert on board your team.
That's right, and we got the expert. Y'all are all at a disadvantage.
Thank you so much. All righty. Well, now that we know a little bit more about each other, I thank you so much for sort of taking part in this activity. And Huckabee and myself, we all look forward to sort of helping y'all out and working with y'all through this process.
Hey, Ron, thank you. Excellent. There's a couple of other people I want to point out to you that I didn't get to introduce before because I lost sight of where she went and I just found her. That's Nicole Lyons. She's our Executive Director of Communications, so I wanted to be sure and point her out. And then another very important person in GCISD, the lady who oversees construction and goes toe-to-toe with some of those individuals with some very colorful language, if appropriate. Just Patty Ewan right here in the back of the room. So, if and when you have some very specific questions about projects in GCISD, Patty is a good resource for sure as we go through this process and these conversations. Well, it's really good to kind of begin to get to know you. I've already kind of made notes in my brain a little bit about a few of you and where else we can make use of you and who to keep an eye on and who's not going to be on task and who's going to be on task. So that's great. There's already a lot of telling that's going on. And interesting that one of our teachers is probably a student much like I was when I was in high school. So, all right, very good. So, next up, Dr. Schnauts to give his introduction to GCISD.
All right, y'all. Thank y'all again for being here. As Ron was kind of asking us questions about our kids, I wanted to add a question. They're like, how many of you are thinking about having more kids? And you don't have to answer that, but we would certainly appreciate increasing our enrollment.
That's long-range planning right there.
And that's long-range planning too. So, all right, we can go home. But no, so as Paula mentioned, long-range planning committee. Okay, so we're tasked with basically creating that 10-year facilities plan. Okay, and so as we go through this, I want you to think of this as we're in an airplane. Okay, because tonight we're going to fly at like 30,000 feet. Okay, it's going to be a very kind of broad, contextual view tonight. All right, and as every week and every meeting, we're going to continue to drop. So the next meeting we may fly at 25,000 feet, 20,000 feet. All right, and we're going to start to kind of take a narrow look at the areas of academics, the areas of facilities, the areas of operations, just all the different facets of our district. All right, and so by the time we land the plane on this facilities plan at the end of this semester, you're going to have you're going to be well versed in GCISD and just all the different arenas, right? And so as you think about this, we'll establish that long-range plan considering the educational needs of all students. Okay, and some of us sometimes that's hard for us because we wear a hat in, let's just say, the gifted area, right? But we're going to take a look at all the different areas, the educational needs for all students. You are the community, okay? And so thank you again as Paula mentioned, thank you guys for committing to this. Thank you for investing in this work. It matters. A lot of you in here were recommended and selected. And so I hope you feel proud that you're sitting in the room. If you're not, you can take it up with the person that recommended you, not us, right? But no, we wanted to try to create kind of a well-rounded room where we're going to get a lot of great dialogue and just different perspectives because we need that, okay? And so this is going to be a healthy space. It's going to be productive. And, not only we ask this, obviously Paula mentioned it's important that you show up, that it builds upon each meeting, builds upon itself, but also be an active, engaged participant in this, okay? Don't sit on your hands. Let's get after it, all right? And so we look forward to getting to know you. And that's the thing. We're gonna build a strong relationship through this process as well. And we're gonna have something really good, a good tangible plan to hand off to that bond committee come August. Assessing and prioritizing the district's current and long-term facility needs, including but not limited to building conditions and infrastructure, safety and security technology, and the list will go on, okay? And so we're gonna get into all of it. Just about our district, So our current enrollment as of Monday sits at 13,755, and we are, you know, if you look at us geographically, we're landlocked. We're kind of built out, and we've been slightly declining in enrollment since the early 2000s. And so, you know, I wasn't joking about, we would love to have your kids and more kids. And so we have a little under 2,000 employees. Of those 1930, a little over 1,000 are teachers. And we have 17 traditional schools, traditional campuses. We have 11 elementaries, 4 middle schools, 2 comprehensive high schools, and then we have Bridges and Vista as our alternative, the Collegiate Academy, the Early College High School, and then we have our iUniversity Prep, which is our virtual online school. These are the areas we serve. Average years of experienced teachers is 12, which is good. And then our teachers with advanced degrees is 26%. And so I want to start with our people, okay? And really, we are governed by an awesome group of servant leaders. In our school board, you can see here, President Casey Ford, Vice President Shannon Braun, Secretary Kathy Spradley, and we have Trustee Becky St. John, Trustee Tammy Nakamura, Trustee Coley Canner, and Trustee Jorge Rodriguez. And they work really hard to make some really tough decisions for the betterment of our students and staff and our people in our district and all those things. And so it's not easy, as you guys know, as you can imagine. They do it because out of the goodness of their hearts, and they do it on a volunteer basis. And so we're very grateful for their service and their leadership and just their vision. And so, again, I said our people, you know, we have a high bar here in GCISD. Okay, we just do. We have high expectations, and that doesn't happen just overnight. All right, we stand on the shoulders of those that have come before us, and I mean teachers, staff, educators, leaders, parents, families. Okay, many of those families you probably know. All right, but it's imperative for us to continue to meet and exceed that bar. Okay, and so I want you to think about this. You're like, why am I doing this? Well, we're doing this to raise the bar for our district and for our community. Okay. And we've got work to do, and we're going to point that out. I'm going to touch on some of that tonight, but as we go through this process, we're going to talk about the work that we have to do. But I want you to know this, we're really proud of our people. We're proud of our students. We have amazing students because of parents and people like you, because of the educators and the leaders in this room. And these are just a few recognitions and honors that we've received just in the last, you know, this year, in the last 6 months or so. This right here, down here in the bottom left, this is Caden Surirack, and he is a 4th grade Glen Hope student, property poor districts. However, this money now is going back to the state in their general operating budget. Okay, it's not going to what its intended purpose was back when in the inception of Robin Hood. And so, you know, that's something that if those of you that have been following our legislative priorities, certainly our board, that's a priority for them as they're, you know, as we're talking to our legislators to just, we've got to fix this, and we've got to work on giving us some relief on this recapture, all right? And I'll even go a step further. Since the inception of Robin Hood, GCISD alone has given back $855 million to the state, okay? The Robin Hood districts across the state this year will give back about $3 billion to the state, okay? And so I believe right now the surplus is at $32 billion, I think. And so there's room there, okay? And so just keep that in mind. We'll talk more about that too. But certainly going back to the importance of bonds, it's critical, guys, that we have successful bond referendums. All right, going back to the purpose, creating a 10-year plan for GCISD, prioritize projects for a bond. Try not to think about dollars or timing, okay? It may not be another 8 years, could be 5, could be 2 to 3. Don't worry about that, okay? Just have an open mind. Focus on what's best for the students and the professionals, our people. And that's why I started with our people, and I want to kind of end with our people. Focus on our people, all right? And that bar that we've set for our community and for our kids and for our staff. And I will say this too, kind of side note, our board's really committed to to put money back into the compensation levels for our staff and our employees, all right? And getting us up to an area, or just increasing the compensation packages for our employees. And this last little bullet here is important. Let's dream big here, okay? It's like, when we get in a safe space, there are no wrong answers, okay? There are no wrong ideas, there are no crazy ideas, there are no crazy thoughts. Somebody may be thinking it, but don't tell your neighbor. But it's okay to dream big, and that's what we're going to do here, all right? All right, and so we're always working on ways to improve engagement, communication with our community. By being a part of this, you'll be signed up. Some of you are already probably signed up for our GCISD update and just other platforms for communication, for engagement. We're always trying to, put out our data, news, any updates across the district. So you will be receiving the GCISD update now. And again, I just want to say thank you for your commitment to this. Thank you for your investment. It's worth it. Our students are worth it. Our employees are worth it. Our people are worth it. And you're worth it too. All right, you chose us for a reason. You chose this community for a reason. And we want to keep the bar, not where it is. We want to raise it. We want to continually raise the bar. Okay. All right. Dr. Barbara, any questions? Do we have any questions? Do we have time for questions?
Do you have time for
Okay.
questions?
Any questions? Yes, sir.
So what percentage of the committee, roughly 50, I think you said? What percentage of the committee, roughly 50 folks in the committee?
Yes.
What percentage are non-GCISD employees?
Non-GCISD employees.
Right.
I'll have to, I'm gonna put that in the parking lot and get that answer back to you. I'm not exactly sure.
Okay.
Okay, so let's just do a quick visual. Who's not a GCISD employee? Raise your hand. Okay. Okay. So roughly maybe 40%.
Well, remember that about 14 people in this room are
Or
not
non-voting?
voting
Yeah.
members.
So we'll put that in the parking lot, and we'll get that hard number for you. All right. Anything else?
What can you do to reduce the Robin Hood recapture? I mean, it's staggering.
Yeah, it is, and I think what. Yeah. What can we do? We can continue to get in the ears of our legislators and there has to be some reform for this. There has to be, and it's something that I think this continues to kind of metastasize and grow as far as the concerns that we have, the property wealthy districts. But it's going to take our communities. It's going to take the voices of parents, families, business leaders, for us to get in the ears of our legislators and start to, voice our concerns. And I know as more and more of the recaptured districts are starting to speak louder, but honestly, I'm just going to tell you, they listen to parents. They listen to you guys. They don't listen to whiny school people. That's just the truth. Because we've been whining about this for a while. And that's just the truth. So, and here's the thing. As I mentioned, we're going to get to know each other much better through time. And so during breaks, during moments where in passing by, please, if we have questions, let's dialogue like this and we can talk kind of off the record about anything, okay? All right. Thank you, guys.
Great, thank you. And I will tell you that sometime in March, we'll have our interim chief financial officer in, and we'll be going over a little bit in terms of the district's operating budget and what that's comprised of, so that you have a better understanding of what is in there and what that is, and why a school district like GCISD, a recapture district, relies on bond programs for some of the things that it has. So he's going to come explain basically a lot about tax rates and where GCISD compares as far as that is concerned. kind of do a compare and contrast, but also help to educate you so that you understand. One of the things that, as Dr. Schnauz mentioned, as far as the tax rates are concerned, you saw what he said was that 100% of that money stays in GCISD. It's not subject to recapture. So money that comes in on the debt side of the tax equation is not subject to recapture. Now, it is subject to interest, right, and whatever our issuance cost was when we sold the bonds, but I promise you that that's far lower than the 8% or whatever that he showed you as far as recapture dollars are. So on the M&O tax side of that equation, and for every $1 that we get, right, 38 cents goes somewhere else. So that's a much higher interest rate than anything you would ever have on a bond. And that's just a precursor to helping you understand why a school district like GCISD would use bond money to buy a computer for a staff or teacher or a student. And the first question I had when I heard that was, are you paying for 25 years on a laptop? Please tell me we're not doing that. No. Very good, thank you. Our financial advisors always structure the debt that the district opts to enter into to coincide with the life of that asset. School buses don't last 25 years either. And so they set up the repayment of that debt, just like we repay our mortgages, our houses, to coincide with the life of that asset. So we're paying it off earlier for some stuff, so several millions or whatever that correlate with the technology that we need, and those that have to do with facilities and buses at a different rate and amount. So hear that very loud and clear, because I know the first time I heard that, I was a little bit in shock. And so other districts can afford to do that out of their operating budget. But you're going to find out when Richard comes that night, that's not feasible at GCISD, just the way that the financial arrangement for budgeting and all, and the tax rates, the use of the tax rates, how that comes to be for a school district that's known as a Chapter 49 district in today's world. So, all right. Well, another thing that's really important when it comes to thinking about facilities and the future has to do with enrollment. And along with enrollment goes programs. And what do I mean by that? Sometimes you have to do things differently to your buildings to be able to educate kids in whatever way it needs to happen now. And the way that we educate kids now is far better than it was when I went to school. It's much more involved, it's much more hands-on, it's much more collaborative. And buildings that were built in the 60s, as an example, or the 50s, don't really lend themselves all that well to that. That's the reason that you look at some of those things like an addition when you have enrollment that's going downward. Or sometimes you just look at a renovation, if that's appropriate, for an older building in order to accommodate the programs that are in it. So what we have next is Brent Alexander, who is better known as the district demographer. He's been in front of our school board several times. He's going to come up and talk to you a little bit about just the historical enrollment of the district, but more importantly, kind of where it is now, where it's going. And what you're going to hear overall is that it's been declining, and it's still going to be in a decline. And that's important for you to know in terms of what you're looking at and what you're considering. Because that, to me, suggests that there might be some spaces available to renovate in a way to address programs and their needs, as opposed to adding on to a facility or something of that nature. All right? So with that, Brent, I'll turn the mic over to you.
Thank you, Paula. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to walk over here and get the clicker. I'm going to continue on the 30,000-foot picture for you all tonight. I'm going to step over here on this side. What I have prepared for you is about a 20-minute presentation to take you through the district demographics. I've worked with the district since 2016. Our firm, School District Strategies, works with school districts across the state of Texas. We've been working with districts for about 20 years. I like to start all of our presentations with general numbers from the most recent census or the latest estimates from our national demographic source, which is Esri. You all may be familiar with that company. They're the largest GIS company in the world. They produce these statistics that you see here on this slide. Now, it's quite a bit of information here, but I want you to focus in on, we have some of the results of the 2020 census. The census did show the total population just over 83,000, with total households about 33,600. So remember, when you look at these numbers and you see households, those are all types of homes, single-family homes, your apartments, mobile homes, everything rolled up into those numbers. You can see the 2022 estimates that Esri has put together. They produced these about 6 months ago. So just for reference, a lot of the detailed data from the census down to the block level that we typically would have by now has not been released. That data is expected sometime this summer, so I think it will be, once we have that, it'll be enlightening for districts like Grapevine, Colleyville, because it will provide a visual of a lot of the trends that you see here on this slide if you go through each one of the charts. And that is, if you look up here to the top right, you can see how these bars on the right-hand side of the chart is basically showing an aging population within the district. At the same time, you're seeing more households with fewer children. When you look through the charts here, some data down here, the median age is now over 40. And the student age per household, that's roughly comparing the counts for age 5 to 17 to that total household count is now at 0.38, which is about half of what you would see in a fast growth district. So more on student yields in a moment. But quite a bit here. Just wanted to really have you focus on that these charts do illustrate one of the major trends behind what you see here. These are the annual enrollment numbers for the district as of the fall snapshot dates. Now what we've done is we've taken all the iUniversity prep students out of these numbers. So what you see are the combined pre-K through 12 numbers, including tuition-based pre-K for the district. So consistent numbers from 2012 to 2019, and then since 2019 we've seen a decline of over 700. So think back to that previous slide. When you do an average, the overall population is estimated to be growing at 1.2 to 1.5% per year. While that's happening, enrollment here in the district is declining by, if you look here at the annual percentages, 1.3 to 1.9, depending on the time period that you use. You can see COVID had a big impact on the district, a net loss of 559. That was a 4.2% year-over-year decline. Many of you may not have seen some of my previous presentations, but just for your reference, the state lost 2% of its enrollment from 19 to 20. Most districts lost 2 to 4%. Grapevine, Colleyville was more on the higher end of loss. Now, most districts have recovered a lot of those students. You all have seen a pretty good recovery, but it's still in the negative. So going back to this slide, you can see that the official number for the district in 22-23 is 12,541. This decline here over these last 5 years of about 6%, 90% of it's occurred over these last 3 years. So I want to give you a closer look at what's behind that rate of decline that's sped up these last 3 years. Mainly, you can see it's in the elementary level. This chart here gives you 2-year increments of totals by attendance level. If you look over on the left, the district has continued to see an increasing number of pre-K students as they have used the tuition-based program to supplement some of those numbers there. But elementary's down, net loss of 350 kids over the last 3 years. And now you can see with elementary declining, really I'll show you here in a minute, it's been declining since 2015. That has now moved up and it's now impacting the middle school and the high school numbers as well. This is a more detailed look at the history. These are all your grade level totals dating back to the 2007-8 school year. I've highlighted when the record class size was for each grade. And you can see that the last big wave of growth that occurred in that 2007-2010, these kids aged up, and most of them have aged up and out of the district now. So think back to that first slide, district aging population. Now you have the combination of a lot of, behind this large wave, you see these class sizes smaller in K through 4. Another thing that happened about 2015, 2016 is the emergence of charter schools. So it's a small number here in the district, but these things have compounded on top of each other. As districts in Tarrant County have lost enrollment, many have started to expand their open enrollment. So you all lose students to Carroll, you lose students to HEB. So all of those have contributed to a faster rate of decline over these last couple of years. A couple other metrics that I put in here for you all just to illustrate it. You all are positioned for decline because you have more students graduating than what are coming in. This simple chart here shows your 12th grade enrollment over the last 15 years versus what's been coming in. So it's been very consistent, but you can see here recently the gaps have gotten larger, and that's caused that rate to loss to speed up a little bit. Right now, the average grade size from 8th to 12th grade is about 150 students larger than what's in K through 4. So just think, every year that we do enrollment projections, we just roll everybody up. We're falling back 150 on average just at the start. Now, you might ask, is the birth rate declining? Is it impacting those incoming kindergartners? Well, what you see with the blue line, those are the birth rate numbers basically from 2004 through 2019. That's the latest range that the state has provided for the local zip codes here, 76034 and 76051. About 700 births per year. It's been very consistent, as you can see. We've moved it 5 years forward and compared it to kindergarten enrollment. You can see they've had a pretty parallel relationship over these last couple of years until the little COVID blip here, and then the gap is this is a little bit lower over these last few years as fewer people have moved in. So that's another layer that I'm about to show you. But what we see for the next 2 years is that kindergarten enrollment should remain around 700 or just above, or excuse me, right around 800, as you can see over these next few years on the right-hand side of that chart. Every year we geocode the student address data. This is a summary of our last 4 years of geocoding. You can see here that slight decline of total students that live within the district boundary. This year it's about 96%. Actually a little bit up, just a little bit over compared to the last 2 years. But overall, it's been about 95 to 5 when you're looking at students that live within the boundary versus that are transferring in from the outside. We use all of that geocoding. We compare it to all of our occupied home count information to look at the yields per single family home. You can see back in 2016, 2017, 18, I'll show you here on the housing chart in a minute. I think that was one of the time periods where the district still had several neighborhoods that offered more traditional lot sizes. Think Creekside at Colleyville, even though more expensive than what you would see in other parts of Tarrant County, but what I'm about to show you is that was a more traditional type of home lot size and produced a higher yield than what's being built right now over the last 12 to 18 months. But you can see again that trend falling as there's fewer kids in those homes. Another thing to note, that the yield for a subdivision like Creekside at Colleyville was 0.6. It was double what we're seeing now. As the home prices have moved up past the upper, many of the homes were in that 500 to a million. As they moved up to $1 million and above, the yields have gone down. Also, the townhomes, you're seeing more of those in specialty type product mixed in. Yields on those types of homes are lower. So overall, this has all compounded to move that overall yield for the district for single family homes down to 0.45. Now for apartments, there's been quite a bit of apartment construction in the district over the last several years. We've seen that number actually tick up a little bit this year at 0.19. You can see from 2016 to 19 that it was about 0.25, very normal yield for Dallas-Fort Worth. But after or during the pandemic, you can see the total number of kids in our apartment sample size fell. You can see mainly at elementary, it declined, but it's bouncing back a little bit this year. So one of the trends I've talked with the board and the administration about is over the last couple of years, you've lost kids that lived in multifamily developments. That could be attributed to rents going up. We've seen rents go up 20% over the last year, and so you compound that over the, I don't have a comparison of what the rents were in 2018, but I bet that some of that is a reason for, especially when you look at the losses are mainly in the southeast, in your Bear Creek Elementary attendance zone. So a lot of apartments down there, rents go up. It looks like that's one of the areas that you all have experienced some of your losses. That's also an area that was relatively new in the late 90s, early aughts, and a lot of those kids have moved up and graduated in those areas. So the next section are a couple of summary slides in the housing market. Just so you know, we monitor how many of the existing homes are turning over. It's been very consistent on an annual basis. This year, though, is actually the lowest since in about 10 years. Now, understand what happened over Paula mentioned the interest rates. Understand what happened in the early fall through November. Interest rates went to 7%, and many of the sales came to a screeching halt. Now, good news is in December and January, the rates have come back down, and builders and realtors are reporting stronger sales again. But look at what has happened to the median price on an existing home sold in the district over these last 10 plus years. It's gone from about 250 to 566. So another thing that's happened is you all have seen your existing homes become it's a challenge for a lot of households in DFW to afford that. So they have to look elsewhere. So the district has a premium price on existing homes, and that has also contributed to younger families being able to purchase a home in the district. This chart here is our summary of new home construction. I was mentioning Creekside at Colleyville, so you can look back in that 15 to 2018 time frame. The housing market was producing a little more than 200 units in the district, producing a higher yield, and then over these last few years it's slowly declined as the lot supply in those subdivisions dwindled, and we've seen fewer lots developed. Now, you can see in 2022 there were only 20 homes started, 33 moved into. Yes, the new home market is projected to be slower than it was overall for DFW in 2023, but understand that most of the new homes in the district have moved into the high-end luxury type homes, well up into the $1 million, $2 million plus, especially in the Colleyville side of the district. We see a lot of infill tracts all through that are coming through, and most of those are usually targeting custom home builders, or they're a specialty type townhome or smaller products. So that's really, there's about 250 to 300 lots left in the pipeline going forward. That leads us to all of our enrollment projections. So we look at all of the individual subdivisions, all of the yields, all of those trends by grade level that are behind all of the charts that we've shown you. The roll-up is in our moderate growth scenario. That's our most likely, the blue line there. That's what we think the district will be at for enrollment. That's your non-IUP students. These are the students that are in the seats in the district. We think that that's going to be relatively flat going forward. This is assuming that those houses in apartments, there's about 600 more apartments that are out there coming. We probably will see more in the future, so we're expecting those to contribute a little bit and keep the district near the enrollment that it is currently at. Now, if we see very little impact or little to no impact from what's left from the housing inventory in the district's going to continue on that decline. You saw that 150 student drop each year down in those lower grade level totals as they age up and those larger classes move out. We're going to see the enrollment decline more towards 12,000 total students. Now, this is not necessarily a bad thing. You all have a solid base of 12,000 plus students in the district. For a long-range planning committee, this doesn't scream the need for new facilities or major capacity issues, or you all to struggle with locating sites to buy and all of that, obviously. So what it does is it allows you to focus on the other needs of the district. But I just wanted to take about 20 minutes here, give you a big picture of the district and the trends that are occurring. I'll turn it over to Paul again for any questions. Thank you.
Do we have any questions for Brent? Yes.
So what percentage, and maybe we don't know this, but what percentage of the students that are K through 12 age in the GCISD district do not go to our school system?
That's one of the reasons the census data was important, that age data, because it would give us a glimpse at how many are out there. The estimate, you can see it on the that first slide, there was a little more than 17,000 total under age 18. I think that it's around 15,000 is kind of what I estimate. So out there is a group, and that group that's not attending here would be distributed out through many homeschooling. It would be charter schools. It would be employees that work in other districts. All of the above, open enrollment. But generally, I think that's what you're getting at, is that there's a few thousand more that are out there. But it would be nice to be able to drill down on that number. But the only count that we would have, a really solid count, would come from the census. And it's 3 years since they did the count, and they haven't released it yet.
So, but based on your estimations, it's about 1 out of every 4 students do not attend GCISD. Or
You
student
can
age.
Well, that student age was 0.38, so you can read a lot into the yield numbers. 0.45 was the overall number for all the households in our sample. A typical fast growth school district, that number is up around 0.75. Okay, so as districts age, as they age in place and they have more empty nesters, we see that number go down to where it is today for you all. So it's difficult to say that a fraction of that yield that is typically seen in the 0.7 number could possibly be there, but that meaning they're attending other places. But I cannot give you an exact number until we have some better data on the existing population. mean, I don't want to confuse you all, because there are districts that have, you know that there are more kids that live in the district than are attending, but we can prove that, hey, they're at a charter school. You know, the numbers are there. You all have some that are at charter school. They're not necessarily, they're not huge numbers. So most of it is the fact that areas like Flower Mound, areas like Colleyville, Grapevine, even in the Lucas area, Collis County, you know, all these places are destination places that people have come and brought their kids for the good schools in these areas, and they have stayed in place. They love those areas. Kids have aged up and graduated. Now they are staying in their homes. If those homes aren't sold and turned over, and that younger group comes in, it's going to continue to go down. And it's the same story that I've seen in other areas of DFW, very popular areas, areas that are loved. People just stay. They love the area. They stay. I mean, how many of the committee have watched, you know, had a kid that's gone through already and graduated? I think that's a big portion of what's happening.
So the question that I asked was, you know, how many school-age students are there versus the population or enrollment? Do we have that historically over the last 10 years? Because I think that would give you a glimpse as to how many people living within the GCISD send their kids to school versus don't, and what that trend has been over 10 years.
Now, I agree with you, but we're going to have to wait for that census count to have that snapshot in time to look at. Because what we have is 10 years old.
Yeah, I mean, but they update their estimates every couple of years, right?
Yes, but I wanted to see that benchmark. I wanted to see that 2020 count to help, because they're not, some of the data that we get is the most difficult thing they have to do is count the younger kids out there. They do a great job at the overall number, but that specific on the estimates.
Right.
But the census gets a good benchmark to go off of.
So in a nutshell, our decline is an aging population, and our home prices are keeping out a younger population. Is that right?
I think that's fair to say.
Okay.
In addition, the existing home prices, but now you have your new home supply, which has dwindled to where you're near build out.
Right. Okay.
Any idea what percentage of the homeowners are 65 and older?
Well, on that estimate sheet, it did show that, I do have that number, I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but you saw the percentage, I think it was around 14 to 15%, it had gone up 5% from 20 versus 2010.
Any other questions on that? If not, we're gonna move on. One thing that I want to go ahead and mention to you, you should have at your table, is something that looks like this right here. 2024 Master Planning Document. It's a series of slides that at a later point we may get to cover, but it's kind of some background information on long-range facility planning in terms of what we're looking at and what we're considering. So this is your homework between now and next week when we come back together. Just a little bit of a primer, if you will, before you begin to hear from some of the district leaders from the various areas. So next time we're going to have some presentations from Educational Services and Learning. We'll have a presentation from our Chief Technology Officer in regard to just all of that, the infrastructure as well as the devices and the network and everything that we have in GCISD. And you'll have a presentation from athletics. I know it's going to be a little tough here. The first 3 or 4 meetings are more about getting information and hearing information, sitting and learning, which can be really hard to do for an hour and a half. And after that, your meetings will be much more interactive. You'll be able to get up, move around, talk to other people and do some things, so if you can just kind of bear with it. All of it will be foundational information. It's all tools for you as you begin to work together and decide where the district is and what it needs to think about as it is looking out 10 years in regard to some of the items that we're going to talk about. Okay. Anything else? We are right at 7:29. Yes, sir.
You mentioned that we could share with you a preference about a subcommittee.
Yes.
How do we do that?
You can email me if you already have an interest in that. Okay? If you know kind of where you're leaning, feel free to go ahead and start. Let me know that. Any questions on anything else? All right. Very good. Well, I appreciate everybody being here tonight, your attentiveness and all, and we look forward to seeing you. I look forward to seeing you again next Thursday, right back in this same room. So thank you. If you want to leave your name tag, we'll be sure and bring it back for you so you don't have to try to keep up with it. Just set it